I trim up whatever I want.
Okay,
anyway.
good. You're God.
I am.
In this room, I'm God.
Kind of.
She says that to me every time. Victoria says that, like, listeners, like, you don't know her outside. You know, she's all like NPR soft and stuff, but then like when the recording's off, she's intense, you guys. Yeah. She's got that, like, you know, that Michael Keaton type of like a little unhinged in the eye.
God, that's so great.
You know,
I love being compared to Michael Keaton.
I just
like, yeah.
I recently watched something with him and it just was like, oh yeah, like he's got that. He's
the best Bruce Wayne.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like, not Batman necessarily, but the best Bruce Wayne.
I definitely think
definitely
he's
played
the best Bruce Wayne.
Perfect.
Hey.
I almost did it.
No, you don't. No, wait. What if we both said it at the same exact time?
Okay. This isn't gonna work.
Let's do it. Let's try. Okay.
Hey,
Victoria.
You know what I mean?
It's
not working.
Hey, Victoria. You were just about to do it. I'm sorry.
Hey, Chelsea.
What?
You know what I need?
What?
A breath of fresh movie.
That's a movie I like to see.
This is a breath of fresh movie.
Yeah, this is a podcast where I, Chelsea Pope,
and me, Victoria Harley,
we talk about movies we haven't seen before. It's like a one movie a week thing, though. So like we just talk about
like a weekly challenge in trying something new. I've seen a lot of movies, and that means like we're not going to ever cover Citizen Kane, or
people are tuning out right now. They're like, they've been waiting
we're not going to do The Godfather. We're not going to do a lot of really great,
which is a shame because I've never seen any of them. No, actually, I have seen both of those movies. I've seen a lot of like the big hits, but there's definitely some blind spots in my viewing history. But the added wrench of Victoria's viewership history.
Well, they're always making new movies, so
yeah,
I'm never going to see those. You know,
you're never gonna see that unless I tell you we gotta watch some new movies.
I'm working on the back of the catalog.
They can't all be like before 1960.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, that sucks. No, joking. Yeah. Well, in the spirit of being contemporary, today's film that we reviewed was the documentary from 2021, Red Heaven, which was directed by Lauren DeFilippo and Catherine Geringe. They both co-directed this, but Catherine edited it, and that's...
Which is like 80% of what this really is, because the real directors are the editors. The astronauts.
Yeah, so this film...
I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
No, that was perfect. This is a film about 6 scientists who, for 1 year, are living in a Mars simulation, a NASA experiment studying what happens to humans when isolated from Earth. They're in this... together for a year, and it's this geodesic dome that is on Hawaii, a part of Hawaii that's very desolate and meant to replicate what Mars is like. And these people all agreed to do this to basically further the cause of space exploration. And the data is really concerned less about how much they can survive without water or these other things, and it's more really about their psychological state. Like they have to take all these surveys every day and constantly report their mood and their experiences. So these 2 filmmakers heard that this year-long project, this year-long simulation of isolation was going to happen, and they managed to convince the project to and the scientists to take a bunch of cameras in with them for that year. So all the footage, as Chelsea was mentioning, was captured by the people in the documentary.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I just, I guess what it really is, they're the actual like cinematographers, actually, not directors, and the editors of the directors. And
I mean, there was some remote directing that went on. Like occasionally these scientists would upload some footage to Dropbox, and they would on the ground, the editing/directing team would kind of let them know, like, hey, no, just like set the camera up on a tripod and let this shit play out. Like, don't hold on to anything. Don't try to capture it, in that way. So there was some directing. There was.
Sure.
But you're absolutely right. All of the footage is being captured by the people who are inside this experiment.
Right.
Which is really interesting. And in fact, I guess when the filmmakers were first starting, they had some outside interviews. Like they were going to have all this stuff about Mars. And as they kind of decided to limit themselves to only the footage that was captured on
Well,
site.
I think that's for the best, because I will say, like, first impression wise, I very much enjoyed it, and I want to say right out the gate, I highly recommend it.
Same,
But it
same.
also is very, they're already trying to cover so much terrain over the course of a year. They're already, like, it already feels like they're kind of cramming a lot of different, like, things in, so we don't really get to kind of sink our teeth into a particular.
It's a feature length documentary. You know,
Yeah.
it stays it's under 90 minutes long.
It's
and
breezy. It goes by quickly again, because
quick.
I feel like they're trying to cover so much ground.
Yeah.
So first they're talking about the trying to contact people from home, then they're talking about the people dating, and this, oh no, these people are making noise, there's tragedy going on in the world, and then it was a lot of shit. This thing broke, and
one thing after another.
Yeah.
I
guess is a good thing for a documentary, better than boring.
And the filmmakers were worried because they're like, well, we want drama, ultimately, and these are kind of by design the least dramatic people, because you want even-headed, cool people to be cohabitating together in this simulation, because like, we send people to Mars, it's going to take possibly just years to get there, and then and that's the thing I should mention. These filmmakers, this idea all came together. These two are graduates of a documentary program at Stanford, so they met in like the Silicon Valley climate, and I guess they were taking note of a lot of the contemporary billionaires who are basically treating Mars like plan B, like we're gonna fuck up this Earth, so we might as well just move on. And they were very much like critical of that point of view and felt that's ridiculous. And so this film is somewhat about that. I don't want to say axiom or agenda, but they're trying to, they have something that they care about, and it's the nature of humanity. And what does a person really need? Like, really, what do you need? And the thought of like not being able to have the wind on your face, or this film left me definitely with an appreciation for Earth and like our country, our land. Like the very thought. I mean, I've never had any desire really to like, be an astronaut.
No, same. It's so claustrophobic, and this sounds awful. Like,
terrifying. Sounds to awful. Me. And the thought of going to another planet, and if it looked anything like this existence, no, I will die here. Like, this documentary should make you very dubious about our ability to go to Mars, not because of the technology, not because of our ability as a species to create whatever is needed, or to put the resources together, because obviously people are doing it. But we're all going to kill each other because none of us can stand each other. And if the basic human component doesn't work, we're never going to make it.
It ends on a pretty confrontational note too, just from that. Oh God, I'm forgetting everyone's names in this.
No,
but,
I can help you.
Yeah, she was the German one,
Christiane,
and she was talking about, she's like, well, I don't want to have to think about it. Like, she says something more or less to the effect of like, this was not ideal, but it may be what we have to do.
Right.
This is what we're heading towards.
Her journals were great. She was the head of the mission, and the fact that she was making comparisons to Shackleton was like,
oh yeah, that was an interesting parallel story that they were like, integrating.
What a gift for the filmmakers.
And
right?
I mean, truly, and it worked so well, and it was also equally sort of foreboding the way that one ends, where they spent years in the harsh
Antarctic,
Antarctic, and then the first thing they were like, is the war over? And they're like, no, the whole world is mad. Like, it's just like, oh
yeah,
man.
the thought of coming out of isolation and like nothing is better. A horrible time machine.
Wow, I can't imagine that. Can't imagine spending a year or so in isolation and nothing being better on the other side of it.
Not at all. I mean, that's the thing. This film was made before the world was locked down, and so it has this incredible resonance. I watched it.
It's prophetic.
Watching Christiane, the head of the mission, who is a incredibly gifted and brilliant scientist, like really interesting woman, I felt like, based on what we saw, and she is like cognitively so ruined by the isolation by the end. Like, it's so hard to watch. Like, and it really terrified me. I'm like, God damn it! Like, am I losing who I am? Am I losing, like, I don't feel as sharp, the lack of stimulation, the lack of interaction. even with idiots, right? It's like, but it fires up stuff. Like,
but it's something, you know. I mean, it's I don't know. This just reminded me of like Groundhog Day. You're like, even with idiots, and it's, you know, there's that part where there's that one guy who keeps walking up to him on the sidewalk, and he's like, "Hey," and then Bill Murray's getting so annoyed with him, and then finally he like embraces it.
Yeah, isn't that Stephen?
Yeah, I'm blanking.
Tobolowsky?
Yeah, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but
he's great.
Yeah,
he
great.
also has a tiny role in Spaceballs, which I watched recently.
Oh yeah.
There's that scene where they catch their stunt doubles instead of them, and
he's done
a lot of shit,
bunch of stuff.
Silicon Valley.
But I bring that up only to say that it's like, at the end of the day, as awful of a prospect as the idea of repeating every day over and over again, at least you're having some form of interaction. I mean, you know,
I mean, these people, they mention that they can contact, you know, quote unquote Earth, but they're on a 20-minute delay. Like, so they don't really have internet. There's no surfing. They can only kind of like get information from the people who stay in touch.
Yeah, it's a 20-minute delay, and like when he's talking about how there were attacks in Paris, and he's like, he emails asking for information, then it took 40 minutes for them to get back, because I assume 20 minutes for them to receive it, and then 20 minutes for them to send the reply. So it's like a 40-minute delay just to get
any information.
What would be just a quick Google update or an Apple alert on an Apple News alert.
And you know, there's that downside, but then there was the guy who, in the absence of all those distractions, he ran like an accidental marathon. Like, I mean, there was that guy who got in shape like doing it. I mean, so we have kind of a cast of characters. There's, as we've mentioned her a couple of times, Christiane, who's the German head of the mission. There's Tristan, who is a space architect. I thought that was funny.
Everybody had a job. Everybody had a job. Fun little jobs.
Everybody had a job. There was Carmel, and she was sort of she grew the plants and admitted immediately, like, oh, I love being outside. Why did I agree to spend here indoors? There's Cyprien, who is like a microbiologist. He's French, and he's kind of the dreamboat, you know, character. I don't find him that attractive, but of all the people in the
if
pod,
you were gonna find someone attractive, it's like, people are gonna hook up.
He was in good shape.
People gonna hook up.
There was Shayna, the medical officer doctor. I hated her. Sorry, she might be a lovely woman in reality. It might have just been the pressure of this thing, but we have to talk about her more.
Yeah, please.
And then there's the other person I really didn't like, Anjay, who was like the engineer.
Yeah.
And he and Shay, I think, both treated this thing like this was their audition tape for NASA.
Yeah, they were a little intense.
They took
about it.
They were so strict about everything. They were such sticks in the mud about everything.
There was the timing of the showers, which then when the water did run out towards the end, I was like, oh shit. Yeah, there you go.
No, that was scary. I mean,
now I understand.
Yeah, and like everyone, there was a moment where they're out you know, exploring in their spacesuits, and like the fan stops working in the suits, and so they have to hurry back. And there's this understanding that like, right, I could have always taken off the helmet if I had to actually breathe, but like it would have compromised the data. Like we're trying to live on this amount of water for this amount of time. We're trying to like experience we're trying to really simulate this. Yeah. So we have to take it seriously. And and so everybody's commitment is equal. It's just there are two people in the mission who have very different ideas about how to show that commitment.
Yes.
And it gets, you know, when they say like, oh, these people aren't dramatic, it's true. There isn't high drama. There's no screaming, you know, there's no
but
fight.
there's definitely like those passive aggressive jabs.
So much passive aggressive and pregnant silences and like just grimace. I was groaning. And then there were certain aspects of this thing that felt like a sadist set this up. Okay, no soundproofing.
Yeah, that's not, I'm like,
what the fuck is that?
I understand that they're in tight quarters, but to have,
you can't fill that shit in with some foam.
That they didn't do any sort of insulation.
No,
soundproofing.
I would have gone insane.
Yeah, like you can't get away from any noise of any kind ever. Yeah, that would have driven me crazy too. No, I have no doubt that I would have gone insane.
Yeah, like I mean, they say that like we can leave anytime. It's not we're not held here, but there's a lot of people, millions of dollars being put into this.
There's a lot of people watching. There's a lot of pressure. Like, you don't want to be the person that like...
No, as much as I'm like, oh, I'd be out of there. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You would just fucking suffer like a rat.
God, and like have to deal with the public shame.
Yeah,
like, that would suck.
And have people like me being like, I hated that bitch, you know?
Exactly. That's public shame, just the fear of it drives
I mean, So, I mean, all this, I realized these are real people we're talking about, and we saw them in a particular situation. However, Shayna really had like weird girl in science class vibes.
Yeah.
She's doing the like Tai Chi stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Totally seriously in the open. That was like, she also addressed the camera and spoke in this incredibly earnest way that felt totally put upon.
Yeah.
Like not earnest. It was like, it depends on us to know what we're gonna do as people. And I was like, you are so fucking fake.
Yeah.
Like you really are playing up to this camera. And
that's the thing is the reality is, you know, and it makes sense that the directors would have to occasionally remind them, hey, like, don't edit yourselves, you know, or like, you know, like that's,
I mean, you want people to present what they present. And even if that is acting up to the camera, that is part of it.
Yeah.
But damn.
At the same time, it's, you know, that's, you're going to, you're going to get what people are going to choose to put in themselves intentionally or not. Like it's.
She also was like wearing a NASA t-shirt a lot.
I noticed that. I was like, why is she the only one wearing that swag? Is it that it was provided or is this like a pride thing?
She wants to be an astronaut. She straight up said she's the one.
I was like, why isn't no one else doing
She and Anjay were the ones who were like really wanted to go now. And like he's an engineer, and engineers tend to be, you know, they don't always have great interpersonal
we just
skills.
Alienated all the engineers listening.
I've worked with lots of engineers who do have great interpersonal skills, and those people are like fucking dangerous because they're brilliant and they were good with people, and God help you if they're attractive, they could just take over the world. Because engineers are incredible, like they make shit happen. So like you're allowed to have deficiencies. You know, it's like certain artists are fucking crazy, you know. It doesn't mean you have to be a great artist, but you know, it happens.
Generally speaking. These are not unfair.
We like engineers.
Assessments.
I don't want to lose you because I have a feeling, you know, you might listen.
We might like him a little too much, actually.
But he definitely had just like, he had this like long speech about how like, it just felt really sad to me. He's just like going on and on about like, oh, well, you know, for these long missions, NASA really wants somebody who's used to spending long periods of time alone in isolation. And I don't mind not feeling the sun on my face. I function very well in cold clinical environments. And it's like, if that's true, this is the saddest, grossest thing.
It
like
is sad.
You're basically proud of being a robot. Like,
well, that's also its own conflict right there, is the kinds of people who would be able to have the stamina to do these long-term missions. You know, how potentially out of touch with their own humanity might they be or become? I
know. And it just sounded like somebody was trying to rationalize his lonely life. You know, that's like what.
Am I conflating him with someone else? Because there was also the same one who was, or there was someone who's complaining. No one was fucking.
That was Tristan.
There we go.
I thought I also,
that's fucking brutal, dude.
That part also made me laugh because he was just like, well, nobody's writing back.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, that does suck. But I'm like, but then they cut to like somebody else like sending a birthday video or something.
Yeah, they amplify.
Like, dude, maybe your people don't like you very much. Like, sorry. Tristan, I wasn't sure about. I don't know. He felt like a joiner. Like, I think he was a joiner.
I don't know. You see, like in terms of major and minor characters within this already intimate cast, it's, you know, that was just a moment where I had otherwise not gotten a whole lot, but that painted such a we don't get a ton of him. So then that is just like that does heavily inform
I think he also like got one of the best trailer lines because he says something to the effect of like, you know, if you survive the airlock and you survive this, doesn't matter. We're just going to kill each other. Because he pretty much summarized the whole problem, like, of the film. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it, of course, ended up in the trailer. But, and then, of course, there's, we haven't talked about Carmel or Cyprian too much, but Carmel was interesting. She seemed chill. She doesn't hook up with anybody and she grows plants, you know?
Yeah. So I found her very, like, she was the very...
I hope that
all-American girl kind of vibes.
Definitely. Yeah. And she mentioned something about getting news from home and not liking it because it was sad stuff. Like, you know, that farm is now it's a development. And,
exactly.
Like she was like, it's not cool. Like she talked about kind of liking being disconnected. Yeah. Which I could really.
I was like, she was very relatable in that sense. I was like, just the chill girl is kind of watching drama.
Also, like they did mention that when Christian and Cyprian hook up, because two of the scientists, the French scientists and the German scientists, they fall in love.
Of course, the two, like,
they don't just hook up, they fall in love.
The hottest people are going to come together,
and they did. Which there's no mention of overhearing them having sex, but it had to have happened.
It had to have happened. It had to, no, I feel like it was implied, even because not everything was necessarily chronological, although it was more or less a chronological story.
But there was a thematic grouping.
There was yeah. So when they're talking about the noises and stuff like that, I could already tell they were going to be heading into some people have been hooking up terrain, as though that had already happened. Like I felt like there were moments where they were capturing noise problems or frustrations where clearly there were already people who were hooking up at that point.
Yeah.
And so like when they did get to that point in the film, I was like, they could have just moved that up sooner.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's already, that felt like it. Yeah, we saw this. Like as soon as she's doing piggyback rides on him.
Oh,
like,
I know that. I was like, something's going on.
Yeah, that's there's a lot. There's definitely
some tension. There's some tension.
Yeah, they're touchy.
They are
and
touching
before the
they
relationship,
are so touchy in everything. Like
every single
because
scene.
I watched this twice and I went back and I was like, oh, she is all on him.
She's like fixing him.
Yeah,
she's like
she takes like a pencil out of his hand to use and then puts it back in his hand. You know, just like cute little shit. Like, and I'm not even mad. It's just that it's
fine.
Like,
it's like they're very coupley.
And I liked her. I liked what she said though about how the official line at NASA is that relationship sex, it doesn't happen. And she's like, that's a joke. Like, and if we're
I never thought they didn't fuck. Like, I mean, how would you? I was like, how are more people not hooking up?
Yeah,
I was like, how is this not heating? Or maybe was it withheld? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe
we don't know.
Maybe everybody banged.
How were they the only two that hooked up? I have a hard time
because they were both European and like both fit and well-rounded
European
people.
Sex pots.
I'm just saying, not because of the sex. I'm just like, of course the Americans were like the doughier, uglier, nerdier. I'm sorry, but like we just were. Europe was not like Christiane was like such a looker, but like everybody.
Yeah, neither of them are like outside of their dome. They're not.
Outside the dome, we're not looking twice.
Yeah, this wasn't like Biodome where you've got like Kylie Minogue and like.
No, there's nothing like that, but it is. I don't know. I thought it was interesting that she was pointing out that like if we're going to send people on these long missions, we have to expect that this will happen. Yeah. And I think, that's...
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it happened in Biodome, so it was going to happen here. Like there are people that are like are going to hook up. Yeah. You know? I thought about Biodome a lot when I watched this, I'll be honest. This was very like, I just want to talk about Biodome.
Now I'm like, oh, I got to go back and watch that again.
I fucking love Biodome.
So I had a really visceral moment of like sort of yuck and sadness when I saw the freeze-dried cauliflower and the freeze-dried
Oh my God,
ham.
the ham. That when I was hearing it, like when you hear it hit the bowl and then you see the cereal. Hot water. Yeah. Oh, it sounds like cereal.
I'm like,
I thought those were protein powder. I thought that was like, like protein shake.
It was just stuff. Like freeze. And I saw that and that alone would convince me never to do something like this. Like that food. Yeah. That was the saddest fucking food. Like there was that sad Thanksgiving turkey.
They had like packed together. Was it bread or what was it?
I don't know.
It looked like it was just congealed.
Andre made it. I don't know. The engineer put it together.
It was shaped like a cartoon turkey too. Yeah, it was not like a normal turkey.
It was sort of cute.
It was definitely cute, but it was also
like a turkey you'd make like out of dog food for your dog on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I would say that. And like biscuit, like it was like
there was some biscuit
dough, like it looked very.
Oh no, that was terrible.
But also there was something kind of like it was charming and sad at the same time.
It was like I get it. I mean they're trying. I mean there was like I noticed they made crepes. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I would eat a lot of crepes.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I love a crepe.
Yeah.
What was those radish greens that took like forever? Took months to grow one leaf.
Yeah, when they got chives, it was like a huge deal. And they got the chives.
I mean, damn. Like,
and she was like, here's a pea. Here's one pea with a flower on it. And I was like, yes, girl, we got one pea.
I mean, it was like those really high-end restaurants, you know, where you just have one.
Yeah, this is every night you're eating like you're at a 5-star restaurant.
Oh my God.
That's what living in that dome must have felt like.
Oh, no, this is no good.
Yeah, that was rough.
No good. Also, did you peep out? Okay, first of all, they watched Mission to Mars.
I know they were watching The Martian. I was like, okay, this feels a little bit like staged. That felt a little staged to me.
It did feel staged. Also, apparently, I did learn this today. The dome occasionally got re-up supply. I don't know how often, but they got sent an advance copy of that movie because I think it was known they were doing this. But there was a shot of like all the movies they had to watch.
They had a bunch, yeah.
And it was almost all of them were Mars related in some way.
Yeah.
I like
keep you hyped up.
as like a cinephile, I was like offended. You might as well have just put like The Shining and Misery and like all these other like intense movies
in a haunted house or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I was like, again, did a sadist design this experiment?
Yeah. Like why would I would not.
I think I wrote down some of the,
like, you've seen The Martian, right?
Yeah.
You're right. Okay. So like, spoiler, unless if you haven't seen The Martian, bleep out like the next few seconds or whatever, but just, you know, I guess it's hopeful in the sense that it's like, I guess if you want to watch it and see how somebody under like way worse conditions than them somehow made it, even though like obviously the rules are movie rules in that movie.
Movie rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were commenting on like, oh, they do this like what we do. It definitely felt stagey.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they wear their suits half down. Like,
and it also felt like not just stagey, but I don't know. It was like they all were experiencing some kind of self-awareness, I think.
It was filler ultimately to me. Like,
yeah.
I was like, this movie's already doesn't have enough of the, like, if I have like criticisms, it's like one of them would be just that like I still wanted even more humanity.
Yeah.
Of some sort. Again, they were very even keeled people at the end of the day. Overall,
they were definitely getting. You could tell like people were getting annoyed with each other, which it wasn't necessarily based totally on their personalities. I think a lot of it was just the conditions.
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
the isolation, like no distractions. You're you know, the delay.
I almost wish we could have just
like,
even seen more of that. I didn't need to constantly see like an interpersonal. It didn't have to be full on real world vibes.
I agree that this could have had a pacing that was slower and longer.
Yeah.
In that, like, because it was a film about isolation. I think though when I watched it, there was an element where they used this graphic of like how many days they've been in, how many days they have left, like how many surveys they've taken, the overall mood. And those were really helpful guideposts along the way because you just watched the mood start excellent. Yeah. Very good. Fair.
Yeah.
Poor. And
very good.
I'll be honest, I got kind of sad when they all started working together to solve a problem. Like I was like, damn it, I wanted to see everybody get really like more angry and really like
get full blown trial.
The worst it got was a lot of people being irritated, like and kind of. No, I've checked it through telemetry already, you know, like that kind of like the way scientists would bicker, which I guess it's like good to know that there are these people who, even when they get this rough, they don't kill each other.
Yeah.
You know, that's good. It wasn't The Shining. It wasn't, you know, Real World or Mad Real World or something like that. Although that would be great. A24 produced that TV show, Moonbase 8. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I don't think I ever watched it, no.
That is very similar to this in that it's about a NASA simulation and it's like John C. Reilly and Fred Armisen and Tim Heidecker.
Oh yeah. I remember the pre-scene previews for this. Did you ever watch it?
I did. It's really funny.
Oh fuck, I gotta watch it.
It's so funny how similar, like it's like the same film in a different genre almost.
Yeah.
Like it has a lot of the same kind of.
It's like, what if we could tell them what if we could direct this
them,
like we could direct this.
So I mean, if you're wanting that, watch Moonbase 8 because that will like fill. But this is such an interesting, the fact that the film is shot like by the subjects themselves is interesting. The camera is a point of view. It's not archival. It's not verite exactly. It's sort of like a different beast. It's interesting. I like, you know, there were those details about, you know, who was behind the camera. Kind of understand why they turned the camera on. And I think I heard something in an interview with the directors. They said they got footage of, you know, bread rising from them, which was probably, I'm like, maybe that's the kind of thing that might have actually been fun to have in the film. Like, even though that's boring, it's just, but it's a testament to like what the isolation was doing to them. Yeah. And I was so, like, they said they cut it out. And I'm like, why?
See, exactly. And I wonder if in a post-pandemic world now, or
we would have the tolerance
or if they would have just had a different mind about how this movie was going to get put together, because ultimately it did come down so much to editing.
It was the edit. They found the film the edit.
Which is, I mean, again, this was a very enjoyable film and I highly recommend it, but I do wonder, had this been an experiment conducted during the pandemic or post or
Right.
this had been put together post-pandemic, they would have emphasized other things and de-emphasized certain things.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think it has a resonance without, intending to, which is cool. It's also worth noting that these filmmakers, this is their first feature. So, it's a really great debut. Like, it's
for
really
sure.
fantastic debut. And it's interesting. It's a science film, but it's really about humanity. And not that science is about humanity, but they're coming at it from the perspective of people who have history and English degrees, and not people who are interested in the technical, how does this work? It's more like, what does this mean for you?
Yeah, well, what is the human consequence of what this is, as opposed to, like, this is not a technical, this is a social experiment.
Exactly. And that really is like kind of the point of the data they're collecting. As much as there are these, we can't do this, we can only use this much water, there are these very technical limitations.
Right.
But the data that's really important is them. I mean, they're wearing like heart monitors and things like that, so they can be really tracking like what's going on with your body, like what's going on with your stress levels, because this is the missing piece of, we can figure out the ships, we can send people, but the psychological component is just still, they're working on it. I mean, that's why this whole experiment exists.
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring up a really good point about the idea of just what is good mental health in regards to what the parameters are for this kind of job, like what the minimum requirement is, and what ultimately it would take to thrive in that, or should you be thriving in an environment?
Right. No, exactly. It's like
that.
if you are, there might be something wrong with you.
I don't know. I mean, but it's like,
no, totally.
Yeah.
I hear you. And I don't know. I think it was, God, people are so loud out there.
Damn,
I know. I can like hear it on the mic.
That's what I'm hearing today.
It's fine. It's fine. God damn.
We're more important. We're more important. This is what I say to myself when I'm hearing my neighbors and I'm getting mad. I go, I'm more important.
I'm more important.
I'm more important.
I'm the protagonist of my own story.
I'm the main character.
I'm the main character.
I'm the main character.
Let's see. The only other thing I can really think to mention, they really produced this at first with a small grant. And then they launched a Kickstarter when the crew was coming out of isolation to really like help fund, now that they had all the footage, So like this was, it ended up getting some help from Sundance, Seeker, and Sandbox Films, but it really was, they had to really kind of fight their way into like even getting to do this, because when they reached out initially to High Seas, that's the name of the experiment, they were like, no, you can't make a film. Like, but
I'm wondering, like, why the fuck are you guys doing this then? Like, to High Seas, I'm like, this wasn't not to make a movie was the point,
not
but like,
part of your plan.
How
to,
is it
videotape this?
This is, you guys are trying to record and track what psychologically, like you're testing the psychological
you should have
like condition like of
maybe it was a thought of like installing cameras would have been too.
It's too invasive, and it's going to affect the data.
Right. But
I can see that.
But if they bring in cameras that are over, because basically what happened is the filmmakers went out, there was about a period of 2 weeks of training.
Yeah.
Where all of the people in this experiment were doing things in and out of the dome and like learning how to live there without actually living there yet.
Yeah.
And it was during that 2 week period, these filmmakers sort of showed up and just more or less made friends as best they could and convinced them to do it, and sort of got cameras into their hands. And that was the arrangement, because, when they first approached, I think the experiment, or the High Seas people, I think initially thought, but you can't be coming in and out. You can't break the experiment has to exist, everything has to still be working, we can't have you in there in any way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they found an interesting compromise, and it really does put the burden on the editor, to find a story and all of that. But they did, and it was interesting, and there were definitely some characters in there. And again, I may be judging people too harshly, but I had some opinions. I had some real strong opinions. And
how much of that was just crafted by the editor? It was just like, I don't like this bitch.
Maybe. I mean, because like, I'm sorry, I have to go back to Shay for a second, because like,
God, you can't let go Shay.
I can't let go Shay because, okay, early on, she mentioned something about how family's not useful in space. Like, it doesn't matter that I have a house, 2 cats, a husband.
I remember this.
She mentioned her husband last, like after 2 cats, which, I mean, part of me is like, yeah, girl. But I mean, but there's also a part of me that's like, whoa, maybe there's something wrong in that relationship. And I have like my pet theory. I don't think this is true. I have no evidence for this, but I think like her relationship with her husband was shit when she went in there.
I mean, it totally made me
why does a married couple do, you know, why would you agree? Like, no, something's wrong in the relationship.
They literally, they talk about this in Annihilation. Yeah. Like, why would Oscar Isaac's character agree to go on that mission in the first place? And well, I mean, not only would Portman be cheating, but had she not been, they were still having marital probs.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's like, I questioned that a little bit. I was like, because I'm like,
we're so gossipy.
I'm just saying, I don't know what's
Victoria,
going on.
She's foaming at the mouth right now.
And then once the 2 European scientists hooked up and were together and out publicly to the rest of the crew, suddenly, and again, this might have just been the way it was cut, but suddenly there was like footage where Shay's talking about, I'm going to be sending a message to my husband tonight. And all this, like, and then when she comes out of the dome at the end, it's like she's all over him. Like her interest in her husband just starts ticking up and up as soon as there's like a couple around.
There's a shot too, like when they're at like the grocery store together at the very end. There's a little bit of clips of different people, and hers is like her hugging her husband from behind while they're looking at like wine or something.
I was like, that's like honeymoon energy. Yeah, like, and I get it. You just got out of this thing, but sure. It definitely felt like, you know, there's a fucking camera on you.
Well, yeah, I'm like, well, I just wonder too in like the grocery store how they set that shot up, like when I think about stuff like that, because I've watched like YouTube videos of like there's I was into keto for like a second, and there's like this keto guy who like tries to go through the grocery store and tell you like, oh, you can have this, you can't have that. Oh, he's going through like every aisle. And like at multiple grocery stores, people have come up and been like, you can't do, like Trader Joe's, he's like, he has to do on the DL, like at Trader Joe they don't let him do that shit. And so I'm just like, which was Bristol Farms like chill? Well,
she might not, she probably doesn't live in like Los Angeles or places where they're used to seeing like, people try to pull that shit off.
It definitely looked like one of those more like homey type
I don't know what grocery stores. Maybe it was a Wegmans, you know.
I think it had like, you know, it was like a darker looking inside interior, like there was wood.
It was fancy.
I was like, this seems like let me go ask Pop.
I just had lots of questions about her, and because she was really selling stuff all the time. I think that's what it is. I'm like, what is going on?
But like, I need to be on my best behavior. I'm being watched.
It was odd.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't. Yeah, it's overall, those people were all like kind of boring.
They were very boring,
and they were bored with each other.
Yes,
and like it, of course, and like the 2 hottest people hooked up. And that was about as far as any of that went.
And I liked that Carmel, the woman who grows plants, was like, you sure about this? Like you don't actually see her ask it. It was like reported by Christian. But I like that she said something. Go Carmel.
And Christiana had to be like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing.
We know what we're doing. I mean, that whole story about them staying up on New Year's, like, I did like the detail of like 2 people went to bed at 8, 2 more people went to bed at like 10. I'm like, oh fuck. That probably would have been me, because we're in a fucking dome, and what is time, and who gives a shit if it's New Year?
It doesn't mean anything in the only the couple who want to do the kiss. They want to do their little midnight kiss.
She did have a pretty poetic journal though, you know.
That's nice.
She was good.
Can't be mad at like any of these people, because at the end of the day, it's like they that
was a rough situation.
It was into. And then on top of that too, like I liked that the movie, you know, and this is a timing thing, because it was chronologically accurate, you know, like within the last like 3 weeks their water supply got fucked up, right? But I really enjoyed watching those shots that like every single person was actively working to fix it, and like it was, you know, it was like a full crew working together to solve a problem. I was like, I appreciated seeing that.
They built all those additional what was it, like, not distilleries, but they built
they had to build brand new like they had to, like they were like at least like 2 tubs or something, and then it took them like 12 hours to get like 3 gallons of water or something. Like,
no, but that was interesting. It definitely was like, I mean, again, I was like earlier joking like, I didn't like to see them get along anymore, but you know, it's also like, oh shit, these people can accomplish things. Like it was good to see a
on the narrative arc
of like their abilities, and like they haven't only been selected to be guinea pigs. They're very intelligent people.
Yeah, what's her face had the saw, was sawing the wood.
Oh my god!
And shit.
No,
I was just all up in there, working.
Yeah, I totally would have pitched in whatever way I could have if I saw people working. Like, you know, it's like,
I would have made jokes. I would have brought the chuckles.
You would have danced. No, ordered pizza.
No, I would have brought the drama.
Yeah, not enough drama.
That's my teasing like note. But on you know, again, I get that it was a documentary, and I do like that ultimately it was a group of people who wanted to make something work, and they did. And I like that. I like the as close to an uplifting note as possible, in spite of it actually being a bit of a bummer note that it ends on, in terms of like the overall theme of what is being unpacked.
I mean, I think you can take any number of feelings away from it.
What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah,
I'm a waiter. Leave me alone.
Yeah, right.
I don't need that.
It sort of like lifts you up, and then it kind of like just deflates the balloon a little bit.
Yeah, like it's, you know, like for like the fact that the last line is Christiane basically saying like, well, we're gonna probably have to do this someday. Like some sort of like basic like I literally don't remember verbatim what she said.
It
was like, to that effect of like, well, we did this because we're gonna have to in the future.
It's like I think I'd rather die. I mean, honestly, like I mean, it's not like what they lived through was so awful. It's just that I'm like,
it's just not like, it's knowing what life could be,
knowing that life would never go back, like, or knowing that like it.
We may well be in that type of situation, or a form of it now, where it's like we still keep talking like after the pandemic, after this, it's like, like
as soon as I start saying it, I'm like, we're in a fucking situation where there's no back. There's no, like, it's just this, and I've adjusted to this in my own ways, and
we've like, all had to survive.
And it's like, right, we're just going to continue to do that. But I think it's just, I don't know, I'm thinking about Soylent Green and like that character Edward G. Robinson plays, and it's like he experiences one last good night of like a steak and scotch and a cigar, and then he goes and kills himself because he's like, that's it, that it's never going to be better than that, and I'm just going to hunger for this for the rest of my life, which is already almost over. So yeah, see ya. And it's like, it's not even like the physical notion of like submitting your body to be killed, but it's just that kind of resignation and that kind of certainty that they're just certainty that it was never going to get better. Yeah. It's like, that's a kind of certainty I'm scared to know, because I'm afraid of what it would conclude for me, you know? Yeah. But I don't want to give people, like, I don't want anyone listening to like feel too bleak at the end of this. But it's also like ridiculous to ignore this really massive elephant in the room, you know? And it's, I think about what it means to be human and what it means to live on Earth. And the thought of like having to say goodbye to it is really upsetting. Like, in this deep, deep way, not just for my life, but just like our whole species. And yeah, I think if I weren't so heavily medicated, I might be weeping right now.
Oh man, no, I mean, like same. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough feeling to grapple with. The idea of like, is this all there is? Is this fuck? You know, don't you know? Just no, I don't want you to like. I literally no. You know what I'm thinking about right now? This is so vain. I was thinking about how there's like at least one review on Apple Podcasts. It's like, sometimes this is an emotionally raw podcast, and I'm like, you know what, bitch, it is. Like, you know what? Because this shit is bleak, and I get offended. We're always trying to distract ourselves. Yeah, it is like. You have the right to seek comfort. But I also really get offended when people refuse to acknowledge that like common truth that we're all holding together, which is that we're all going to die. Yeah. And like, stop acting like you don't die at the end. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with that. And this is sad because in many ways, I fully agree and sympathize with what you just what you
Yeah.
just spoke to. And, you know, this is my own sort of toxic sort of process, how I've processed what this experience has been, and what I've gone through versus what I'm going through now. And like, I'm a waiter in the midst of a pandemic that, you know, we still don't really see an end to. And, you know, there was a period of time where I didn't have to work or go out or do anything. And, you know, like when I was in the midst of the privileged part of the pandemic for people who were able to stay in and had sufficient government aid to survive and didn't have to, you know, deal with being out in the world and with the just kind of brazen hostility that a lot of people have out there. I'm telling you, now, even more so than before, like, people are fucking mean. I swear. And not just as a waiter. I'm just a normal fucking pedestrian out living my life, and people are just so fucking mean. And it's so sad because I was partway through this movie, especially around the point where, you know, I'm blanking on her name, the girl with the plants, or
Carmel.
It's the one she was talking about. She keeps to herself, and then she likes her plants. She can this and that. And I had to pause, and I texted my boyfriend, and I said, I miss the early part of I miss early pandemic. Like, it's so sad. And like, you know, obviously people were dying. This is terrible. But in the sense that
you're not the only one though.
We're out in like the thick of it, and like, and thankfully I think it's become more of a publicly shared opinion now, where it does kind of feel worse now than it did then.
A number of people experience the kind of like support and aid that should have just been kind of always there. And I think the people got wise to that, and therefore employers and the government quickly was like, oh, well, we can't let them enjoy this too long. And now it's just like, okay, we're back to
it's
like,
truly what the midst of this past of 2021 was, just a very sort of
we got a like little taste of what like socialism might feel like. And I feel like people lost their fucking
that was
minds.
2020, and then 2021 was just watching the pendulum swing back the other way, as someone, myself as a server, just feeling that I didn't hustle hard enough to level up, and now I have to go back to this life. And like, now it's not even, it's the steak and cigar thing I'm feeling. And like, I'm like, man, not that I'm not going to go blow my brains out here or anything, but just the idea of like that sentiment mixed with also I don't want to be out there in that mess, like what Carmel was saying, which is very much that the idea of like, I can keep to myself. I don't need to be embroiled and
I'm getting like further and further away from any ideas of Mondays and days and weeks and years and New Year's. It's like, it's all fucking meaningless. That was something in the documentary that stuck out to me. They were like, we've been in here 6 months, but those are just numbers.
And
I'm like,
just numbers.
And that's how I felt about this year's New Year. I mean, in a weird, you know, again, I'm introverted, but in a weird way, it was kind of nice to be like, no, we're not even going to attempt New Year's. Like, there are plenty of years where I attempted nothing and felt like shit about it. And now it's like, attempting nothing is like, no, it's just survive.
If you were, you know, in this thing.
The dome.
The dome. I keep, you know, I'm just like, why couldn't they made it bigger? Why was it really that's going to be that? I know it can't be like Biodome because that's not real, but it could have been a little more like Biodome.
I'm telling you though, like a sadist designed these quarters. Like that was
because like Biodome is like a movie, like it's a stupid Pauly Shore movie, and if they could have that nice stuff for a Pauly Shore movie, why can't they have it for the astronauts?
They're not real astronauts though. I mean, the way that whole thing was just like, you know, cardboard and tape, you know, it was more about their like
it's an illusion more than anything. Like, but like,
just scotch tape that shit together.
At what point do you think that, let's say that the path to Mars gets expedited or whatever, and suddenly we start seeing more travel like to and from Mars, or people start building a society on Mars or whatever. At what point do you think, and I have an answer to this, but I'll be curious what yours is. When do you think they're going to have to like because they do a mental health check before you go into space, because you can't, they don't want to be putting crazy people in a high stakes situation like that. But at a lot certain of money point, on the table, like, when do you think that'll have to get lifted? For me, I think it's like they're gonna need, the rich people are gonna need waiters, and they're gonna need people that are gonna take care of them up there.
True.
So, because I can't imagine a billionaire wanting to prepare his own ham and cauliflower bowl. So, like,
that's right. He sends out.
But also the type of person who's in that subservient position to that person. Like,
this is like definitely feudalism.
I'm thinking about how, like, I have no doubt that that's what's going to happen when because the billionaires who are making it possible for this Mars travel, once they do, like, I think of, like, let's say Elon Musk like claims, or Jeff Bezos, they get to Mars and they start to establish it. You know, like, they're the new version of the American pioneers, manifest destiny or whatever, and they're creating their own laws and rules. Like, who's to say they're not going to just create, like, feudalism on Mars and we, like, have to live in it? Sorry, that was a question, but it wasn't. Like, sorry.
I feel like feudalism's here too, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just that, like, once, it's like, I can't remember what company it was, but they basically... like, oh, well, our company headquarters is going to be on an island, and we're going to bring all the workers to come live on the island. And it's like, you know, that shit's going to go sideways. That's going to go so bad. There's no like, that is a recipe that's a prison. That's what you're talking about. Yeah. That's what I think the early Mars shit is going to be. It's just like,
it's basically just prison.
Just prison. I think if we're not just deep in debt and, like, seeking a new kind of indentured servitude, they're straight up just gonna chain us up and drag us up there. Like,
I could totally see there being, like, some sort of action type movie that's like Con Air, but it's like a bunch of convicts who are getting shipped to Mars because they have to do, like, labor.
They gotta go dig trenches.
They gotta go dig trenches in Mars for the next, like, mega mall or something.
Don't think they won't fucking do it. We use prison labor for everything.
No, they'll do it. But, like, that's why, like, we should make, like, a movie about like some folks that are trying to hijack the ship.
Okay.
And then they're gonna...
I think there's a movie called...
And Nicolas Cage can be in it.
There's a movie called Space Mutiny that is parodied by Mystery Science Theater or whatever they did. But it's kind of this plot in a way. It's like this giant ship that everyone lives on. And the whole point is they're going to, like... They're moving their whole society to, like, a new planet. Yeah. But it's taking generations. So there are people who will live and die on this ship and know nothing else. It's part of the sacrifice. And there's just, like, one dude, Calgon.
Oh my God.
He's had enough and he's mutinying. So in space. So Space Mutiny. Anyway,
I would watch the shit out of that.
It is a classic Mystery Science Theater episode, like one of the funniest they ever made.
Okay, I need to watch it.
I think I'm gonna die here on Earth.
I think it's gonna probably be my end too.
Yeah, cool. All right, I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie. You can follow us on Twitter at Fresh Movie Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at A Breath of Fresh Movie, or you can email us. We actually prefer that at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com. I mean, really, you can, like, do any of them and we'd really, really appreciate it. But emails are fun because then, if you want, we can read it. Yeah. It'll be fun.
I turned my mic down. If you want, you can do more than one take. Like, I mean, that was great. But I mean, if you...
Sure, I'll do, like, one more. Just whatever you want. Just so you have options. All right.
Yeah. But, like, definitely, I didn't say this, but yeah, please, like, feel free to put in any thing out. Like, this is all that has to get out.
This is just the main meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Just meat and potatoes.
I will say, though, that, like, it's whatever will be played every time.
Oh, shit. So, okay. Yeah. But again, however you want to. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie. You can follow us on Twitter at Fresh Movie Pod. You can also follow us on Instagram at A Breath of Fresh Movie. And you can also email us at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com. Send an email. We love those.
Perfect. All right. Cool.